How's everybody doing today? Good. All right, everybody stand up. Give somebody a high five. Say, all you need is love. Now point to somebody and say, ba, ba, ba. Love it. Perfect. All right, you guys can be seated. I want to welcome you if this is your first time with us, if you've been here many times with us. And I would love to invite all of you guys to join us tomorrow night as we turn on our TVs to ABC, 8 p.m. for episode 6 of The Bachelor, because they give us all of life's lessons on what love really is, right? Love is all you need because love is all around us. It's what sets us in motion. Love influences every decision we make. And every decision we make determines our destination, and our destination, our success. This is true, but some certain Super Bowl ads tried to mess with us last weekend and cause some confusion. So let me set it straight. If you love puppies, you don't have to love Pepsi. If you love a shooting star, you don't have to love Pepsi. And if you love the laughter of a small child, you don't have to love Pepsi. You know, let's just applaud them. They gave it their best shot. I was kind of alarmed to see just all these blue signs popping up. And, you know, if you're going to fail, fail valiantly. And they tried to compete with Coke. And Coca-Cola is still the second most recognized word in the world. And so all I remember about the halftime show is a guy had a lot of tattoos. I don't even remember it was the Pepsi halftime show. You can't love it all. Love is all you need, but loving it all is not what you need. It's Coke or Pepsi. It's iPhone or Samsung. By the way, this is a Samsung church. If you have an iPhone, you should have left it outside the door today. We do have grace, you know, or give grace to people who use iPhones. It's one or the other. And I have this fight within me, even when it comes to food. Right now, I'm craving Waffle House waffles. And I'm also craving to lose weight. And I think, can I do them both? I have to pick one or the other. And as we open today in 1 John, this is what he's getting after in chapter 1, that it's one or the other. You have a right arm. Everybody put out your right arm. All right, put it down. Put out your left arm. All right, put it down. Now put out your middle arm. And that's where these people are at. They're in this like middle ground of confusion, in this gray area. And John's like, it's not there. You can't be in the middle. It's black and it's white. And so go with me together to 1 John chapter 1, and we're kind of bouncing in these two chapters as I just share 1 John 1, 5-6. John's like, this is the message that we have heard from him and proclaimed to you, that God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. If we say we have fellowship with him while we walk in darkness, we lie and do not practice the truth. Go to the next chapter, chapter 2, verse 9. It says, whoever says he is in the light and hates his brother is still in darkness. Whoever loves his brother abides in the light, and in him there is no cause for stumbling. But whoever hates his brother is in the darkness and walks in the darkness and does not know where he is going, because the darkness has blinded his eyes. 1 John 2:15. Do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in them. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh, the desires of the eyes, the pride of life, is not from the Father, but from the world. And the world is passing away along with its desires, but whoever does the will of God abides forever. God is light, so you can be in the light, or you're going to be in darkness. You can't say you know God, but also live life in the darkness. You're in the darkness where you don't want to be. You either love or you hate. If you have any hatred, you're completely in darkness. And you either love the world or you love God. It's black and it's white. And John's not like, this is proper behavior. John is speaking from a heart that is full of joy because he's had fellowship with Jesus. I mean, that's how he opens up this whole book. He says, that which was from the beginning, which we have heard, which we have seen with our eyes, which we've looked upon, we've touched with our hands concerning the word of life. The life was made manifest, and we have seen it and testified to it and proclaimed to you the eternal life, which was with the Father and made manifest to us. That which we have seen and heard, we proclaim also to you, so that you too may have fellowship with us. And indeed, our fellowship is with the Father and with his Son, Jesus Christ. We are writing these things so that all of our joy may be complete. He's like, guys, we've been there. We've been in his presence. Let me tell you, there's nothing better than the presence of Jesus, the Almighty God. He's manifest. It's the best. And so he's speaking from this heart of like, you do have to choose. It's black and it's white. But it's so that your joy may be complete by choosing the right one. And here's the thing, is this generation all believes that, I just heard Barna talk about it, the majority of this generation believes success is money. Success is money. So money makes the world go in motion. And so how do businesses grow? How does money move? Based off of the three things that John talks about. If you look at any advertisement, you can associate that advertisement with pride of life, lust of the flesh, more possessions, or lust of the eyes. And so that's kind of what is moving our culture if success is money and money is what we're chasing. But thankfully, we have very wise people who are older, much older, like Tom Brady older. This is the second week in a row we've given Tom Brady's some credit here. But after his third Super Bowl win, there's a 60 Minutes interview, and they're interviewing him like, hey, so how does it feel to hold up your third Super Bowl trophy? And he's like, I thought there was more to it than this. Like, this is what I was after, but I'm feeling still empty. Like, there's got to be more. And that's the heart of John here. He's like, hey, your love determines your success. And that success that you think you're going for, that destination you want to be at, you're going to get there, and it's like, oh, wait, what did I miss? I'm still feeling empty. And so as he writes us to be confident, he says in verse 28 of chapter 2, remain in him so that when he is revealed, we may have joyful confidence and not be ashamed when we stand before him at his appearing. Joyful confidence. What did you expect of me? You expected me to love you and to love others. And am I to stand there right now and say, I'm fully confident like I did that as you hoped I would, as you expected that I would? Because we have this giant obstacle in our culture that we're all dealing with. Like, it's the kind that like clogs you up so much that you stink. Like, it stinks more than other things in your house that get clogged up. And that is the pressure of this life. Pressures that we feel, pressure to provide, pressure to do well at our job, pressure to make our family happy, pressure to perform, pressure to have enough money for an emergency fund, and then a college fund, and then all of these pressures and pressures and pressures, pressures to not drink Pepsi. It's not really that hard. Pepsi, not to pick up a stray cat, also not that hard. But we can all agree, hey, the pressure is real. The pressure is real. And that's what also moves this culture. If money moves it first, the second is pressure, and we're all succumb to pressure. I think next week is winter break, and it's like, let's get away from it all. Let's go to Alaska. Let's go skiing. Let's go to the beach. Let's get out of here. Let's get away from the pressure. That's how we operate. But then we have to come back. I was just in San Diego last week, and wow, was that a culture change for me to come back to Georgia. I didn't even expect it. But I came right back to these pressures that I left. And as we pour out this love, it can also be the same way of like, I can love really well after my tax refund is here. I can love really well when I get this new job or this new house or this new friend. And so we're on this roller coaster of like, I love God, I love others, I love them so. Oh, then it's like, wait a minute, I've got so much pressure, it's really hard for me to put out any love right now, and I've got to deal with this. And as we're caught, we can say that's just how life works. Like, that's what God expects. That's what he's given us. But what we see in this letter from John is something different. Like, no. It's not an up and down roller coaster that reflects just your life circumstances. God is a light. In him, there's not a trace of darkness. which means there's not an existence or an evidence of any pressure to be in the way. Because where God is, what exists with God is something completely opposite of pressure, and that is purity. It's completely pure. Think about it. Pressure is the presence of problems held within. Purity is the absence of problems held within. Keyword held within. But these problems create as pollution inside of us. Pressure creates problems, or creates this pollution, but purity creates this feeling of being free. And pollution, that's when we have these moments of hatred, or of lust, or desiring more possessions, or pride. When we're polluted, but when we're feeling free, that's where love and joy and peace come from. And so if love is all we need, then one thing we don't need is pressure. And it's tied into something where we can look at that and say, Aaron, how is this possible? Because are you saying that I just don't have problems? I ignore my problems because I can do that and that feels good until a week later and it's like, oh, wait, I have to pay that bill. It's not ignoring the problems, but it's actually the opposite. It's actually full observance of every single problem. If you look at 1 John 1:9, if we confess our sins, he is faithful and just and will forgive us our sins and purify us from all unrighteousness. All unrighteousness. Is pressure an effect from loving God, or is pressure an effect from this world? Pressure within us is evidence of pollution, of unrighteousness. It's evidence of sin when we think about it. Like I'm fearing something. And fear, if God is light and there's no trace of darkness, then there's no trace of fear. And so I have to deal with this unrighteousness in a way. I can't ignore it. Francis Chan, he's a Christian author and speaker, and he tells a story about how he was boarding a plane. And at the beginning, he of course has to go through all these other rows to go to his row 26, middle seat. And as soon as he walks by, he sees the people in first class. He's like, man, that's nice. I wish I was first class. Goes through and sits down. And then as he sat down, he's like, oh my goodness, God, I am so sorry. I just coveted. And I'm hearing this on video, and I'm like, is he joking right now? I just did that last week. Every seat I passed that was an exit seat, I'm like, I wish I had that seat. And I was even stealing somebody else's seat when they got up and went to the bathroom. I'm like, what is this? I'm coveting. And he talks and he says, wait, if God is holy and he says, be holy as I am holy, why would I not? Because I'll be honest, I kind of live like God, like I have God on automatic deposit behind me. As my kids play in the house, they have toys that they leave here, and they go and they play with another toy, and they pull all the things out of the cabinet, and then they go to another area and do the same. And especially my youngest, she just expects her good parents to come up and just clean up after her without her looking behind. And it's like, oh, wow, how I do that with God. Little thing here, little thing there, but I've got grace on automatic deposit. He's picking up after me. He's picking up after me. Oh, I just did a really bad thing. All right, I need to ask for some more help. I just broke a glass, and I can't do that, so can you help me on that? And we don't realize it's like buying a coffee every day of the month. It's $4, but then the end of the month, it's $120. You're like, well, that added up. And as we get by a little bit more of, I don't think I need to confess and get purity for that, but the big ones. But as a result, we're just experiencing pressure enter our lives and pollution enter our lives because we're not living completely in the light where there's not a trace of darkness. But we're sneaking in over here. So I can lose pressure when I let his presence purify me. I lose pressure when I let his presence purify me. As my kids, right, we're trying to get them to learn, it's okay. You can play with stuff, but clean up as you go. And of course, God's not saying it's okay, you can sin, but John does say if you do sin, we have an advocate, the Father, who's there for you. But you have to interact, you have to ask, clean up as you go. And not give myself so much slack. Holiness is expected. I have to set the standard high because 1 John 2:6 says, that whoever claims to live in him must live as Jesus did. Whoever claims to live in him must live as Jesus did in complete holiness. Which means pride doesn't seep in because I'm avoiding pride by being attached to confession. Like if you want to get humbled a little bit, just have somebody else point out every single thing you've done wrong lately, but you can do it for yourself. And it's like when you're in this continual habit of confessing, man, I coveted, man, I looked the wrong way, man, I had this impure thought, man, I kind of didn't want to be around that person. It's that hatred. And avoid pride, and you avoid lustful passions by loving the feeling of purification. Like once I tasted Fiji water, it's been very hard to go back to Nestle quick. But anyways, I do. Nestle, Aquafina, Dasani, any of those waters. But what I don't go back to is I don't go back to like toilet water. Like I know it's there. I know it's easily available right here today. And so why would I go back? And the same for us. Why would we go back? Be honest, when I've been working this week on this message, all you need is love. And I'm like, is that what Heritage needs? Like, this is like, of all places we've been, like these people, you guys really know how to love. Like we felt it in our family. We felt it every single week. This past week, I mean, our heater in our house broke, and like I blinked, and then there were heaters in my house. Like you guys just know how to love really, really well. But I'm reminded that every day we have here, the reason we're here is for us to be consumed more and more by the light so that we're looking more and more and more like Jesus. And what would it look like if we just gave off our pressures more and more and so that we were always available to love and we're always experiencing this fullness of his love? Because to be honest, as you look around at the problems in our culture, it comes down to how they deal with pressure. How are people around us dealing with pressure? Pressure of feeling insecure and insignificant, so I can replace that by bullying others. Pressure of feeling lonely, let me get on social media and let me do all these different angles and things so that I get more likes and I get addicted to social media. Or, you know what, I can't figure out any of the problems, so I'm just going to drink it all away. And then I'm maybe a pill here and there. Addiction to being away from people and isolation and depression. And you even get to the place where it's like, I don't know what to do with this pressure, so I don't know what to do. Because I've interacted in the pride of life, lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, and it's not enough for me. And I'm like, I have nowhere else to go, so I'll just think about suicide. I'll just think about ending my life. And it's not something for us to mess around with or to ignore the place that we're at and the problems that real people are dealing with. And if we can help them, hey, how are you dealing with pressure? It's us not letting it in at all within us, but where it's not an up and down thing, and we're easily able to live it out because it's attached to purification. It's attached to something we never earned on our own. It's not a righteousness of, I'm getting more in the light. I'm away from that. That's nice. You guys can play over there and I'll play over here. It's realizing more and more like, whoa, like I don't deserve this. This is intense love. One of my favorite Jesus passages is John 11. The story of Lazarus dying, and Jesus knows Lazarus is dead, and he doesn't go right away. He waits a few days, and he gets there, and he's talking to his sisters, and his sisters take him out to see the tomb, and John 11:33 says, there Jesus wept. He knew Lazarus was dead. He wasn't weeping that Lazarus was dead. He was weeping because he sees the effects of sin right in front of him, and people that are just torn in half and just can't deal with the feeling of being without their dear brother or their dear friend. And Jesus is weeping because he sees this is a feeling that was never meant to be experienced. But there's another feeling I believe is so deep, and that's Jesus saying, man, this is how God the Father feels because of sin. Like in separation from his creation because of their darkness that they even have traces of. All they need is love. All they need is my son, and he does that. And when we continually get into that and not get bored by hearing about, I've forgiven him my sins, I already know that. But let it continually bury us in this richness, I think we move differently. I think our lights don't just flicker on. I don't think that the church feels like a power surge that shows up in catastrophes, but it's like, wow, every single day is this love not from this world. People that are looking for hope, I was reading a book, a Navy SEAL book, on the plane ride last week, and he just talks about their training and how rigorous it is. And he says how people were quitting and left and right, but one guy started singing in the mud. And so the guy that was quitting comes back in line, and they all start singing and singing and singing and singing. It was bad singing, he said, but they were, singing. And his point was, hope is the most powerful force in the world. And it's what we all have within us, because it's not from this world. This life passes away like a storm that passes away. Last fall, we had our first real in our family tornado scare. I was in a chair in Sonoya getting my hair cut, and my wife called 3 times, and I ignored all of them. Shouldn't have. But then I saw the tornado warning, and I call her back in the chair, and she's like, Aaron, it's like a train here. There's dust flying in our house. What do we do? And I'm like, okay, grab a mattress, go in the bathroom, get all the kids. And I ran out of that place, left the Cape, and as soon as I got home, it was all clear. But I was so proud of my wife, because she did put the mattress in the bathroom and put it back. But I was proud to see she didn't grab the bed frame. She didn't grab the dresser and, the washer and the dryer and the refrigerator. She didn't settle into a temporary situation. She knew it was passing away. And I was proud to see that. But I think that's what God's stop living a limited life by settling in there. That's a temporary situation. Assemble, build, operate for this life that's not here. John Piper wrote a book. It's taken me a while to pick up myself, 90 Minutes in Heaven, because I'm skeptical. Can a guy really be in heaven and then come back to life? And but I've been interested because I hear of more heaven books coming out, and they did a movie about it. And so I picked it up and read about the accident that he had, and realized, there were other witnesses on scene that declared him dead. For 90 minutes, this guy was not there. And talks through all the bodily injuries and how they were just that's impossible, he's dead. And basically he ends up coming back to life because this preacher felt like he was called to stop, to approach him, that car, and to pray with him. And as he prayed, the man comes back here. But I'm 90 minutes. And he writes about the experience. And I love that he does, because love determines decisions, the destination success. And he's this is what's out there. This is what we're living for. This is what's available to us. And he wrote this chapter called My Time in Heaven. Genesis 28:17 is a verse he starts with. He says, "How awesome is this place? There is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven." He says, "When I died, I didn't flow through a dark, long tunnel. I had no sense of fading away or of coming back. I never felt my body being transported into the light. I heard no voices calling to me or anything else. Simultaneous with my last recollection of seeing the bridge and the rain, a light enveloped me, with a brilliance beyond earthly comprehension or description, only that in my next moment of awareness, I was standing in heaven." It says, "Joy pulsated through me as I looked around, and at that moment I became aware of a large crowd of people. They stood in front of a brilliant, ornate gate. They were people who all had died in my lifetime. Their presence seemed absolutely natural. The crowd surrounded me. Some hugged me, a few kissed my cheek, while others pumped my hand. Never had I felt more loved. As I try to explain this, my words seem weak, hardly adequate, because I have to use earthly terms to refer to unimaginable joy, excitement, warmth, total happiness. Everyone continually embraced me, touched me, spoke to me, laughed. Praise God. This seems to go on for a long time, but I didn't tire of it. So when I was a kid, our family reunions were so huge, we rented an entire city park in Monticello, Arkansas. Heaven was many things, but without a doubt, it was the greatest family reunion of all. Everything I experienced was like a first-class buffet for the senses. I'd never felt such powerful embraces or feasted my eyes on such beauty. Heaven's light and texture defy earthly eyes or explanation. warm and radiant light engulfed me. As I looked around, I could hardly grasp the vivid, dazzling colors. Every hue and tone surpassed anything I'd ever seen. The best way I can explain it is to say I felt as if I were in another dimension. Never, even in my happiest moments, had I ever felt so fully alive. It was as if God had removed anything negative or worrisome from my consciousness, and I could only rejoice at being together with these wonderful people. I was home. I was where I belonged. I wanted to be there more than I'd ever wanted to be anywhere on earth. Time had slipped away. I was simply present in heaven. All worries, anxieties, concerns vanished. I had no needs, and I felt perfect. I get frustrated describing what heaven was like because I can't begin to put into words what it looked like, sounded like, felt like. It was perfect. And I knew I had no needs, and I never would again. And the closer he got through the light and towards the gate, it got brighter and brighter. Then he's back here, and the experience is a painful just recovery, and you can read about it in his book. But hearing this, like, sing in that it's not this, all right, let me go through and see if you get in today. But like, it totally changes when Jesus says this in Matthew 6 to his disciples. He says, your Father knows what you need before you ask him. So then, this is how you should pray. This is what you should ask for. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. You need love, but you need love from heaven. You need to experience this love. You need to experience the feeling of being completely without the pressures that you're holding on to and the weight. On earth as it is in heaven. He knows what you need before you ask him. Not these other things from the world. It's about being pure, being purified through his blood. You know what? He already took all the pressure on that cross. Why do I think I need to live with any of it? This is what's before me, and there's no reason then that I should not be able to just max out the love and fully pour out more than anybody could ever expect from me or think, is that, wow, appropriate love. Maybe there's people in here, people you know, who it's just like, I'm always going to deal with the pressure because I haven't started this relationship with Jesus. It's so easy. Matthew 11:28, Jesus is like, come to me, all who are weary and heavy burdened, and you will find rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart. Take my yoke upon you and you will find rest for your soul. My yoke is easy, my burden is light. It's so easy. Easy as ABC. Admit your sin, believe in Jesus, and choose to follow him. Your love determines your decisions, determines your destination, determines your success. But no matter what mess exists around you, this promise is true, that Jesus completely holds your best. And so may we draw close to that, and closer to that, and closer to that, and know that it is his love that I need, and only need, and anything else I can get out of the way. But the first thing I need to get rid of is these pressures.